And welcome to episode number 12. 13? 13? All right, 13 of Raise the Banner podcast. I'm one of your three co hosts, as usual, here with McAtoy with Ben Dirth and J.R. Mott. Ben, it's your turn. How you doing today?
Good. I'm pulling Ron Burgundy, having some scotch. So cheers. Um, got some good things to talk about, some not so good things to talk about, and it should be a good night.
Yep, J.R., how about you?
Chilling, man. Just chilling, not doing really much. Worked early this morning. Thought I had to close tonight, but thank God I didn't. So I wasn't able to watch the Bruins game last night, but I watched the highlights this morning and fucking A, they killed Buffalo.
Yeah, as basically I've been the same the last few weeks. Just still sick. Was on vacation. Sick throughout all of vacation.
I feel so
Just
bad for you that you sat on the beaches of tropical paradise. How sad for you.
yeah. Listen. There was a purpose behind the visit, and sick is still sick.
Yes, it is. Sick is still sick.
All right, but let's jump into it. Uh, let's do some Patriots talk to start. I'm gonna throw a question at you, Ben, to start. You don't know the question yet, so this is gonna be kind of a throwing it at you and live reaction to it.
This is kind of like when you hire a magician and they're like, "Oh, you've never seen me before." It's like one of those moments. Let's go.
All right. Will Bill Belichick be the head coach of the New England Patriots next year?
No.
All right. And to follow that up, why and what will he be doing week one of next year?
Well, I think the why is obvious because the Patriots are absolutely putrid and can't get out of their own way. The more and more I think about it, the more I believe you're going to see a mutual parting of ways where Kraft is going to go to Bill and say, I need to go in a new direction, and it's going to be one of those situations where it's best from a PR standpoint if it's a mutual parting of ways that they at least publicly say it's time to move on and start fresh on both sides. Whereas it's really Kraft going to Bill being like, you can either say we're mutually parting ways and save face, or I'm firing you, to be blunt about it. Where he is, I don't know. For those of you who listened to Pat McAfee, he had Orlovsky on either yesterday or this morning, and Orlovsky was
Both.
pretty adamant. I heard this on the radio today. Orlovsky was pretty adamant that he was in the camp of Bill's not going to be with New England next year, and he already knows where he's going to be. And then when McAfee kind of pressed, he kind of stumbled over his own words and wouldn't really say much of anything, kind of looked like an idiot. I think based on what jobs are going to be available versus the Patriots essentially needed to trade him, the Chargers sense from a team that, in terms of an opening that's probably going to be there, because I don't think the Chargers are going to. I don't think you can stick with Brandon Staley too much longer. He's ruining that team, although they're at least treading water at this point. Um, it's an offense that doesn't really need any kind of fixing. Um, make sure you hold on to a creative, young-minded offensive coordinator and fix the defense and be a competent head coach. Like Brandon Staley, obviously, is not competent. He makes weird decisions, poor decisions that has cost his team time and time again. So that's kind of, I mean, if I was going to pick a team, gun to my head, Chargers. But I think there's certainly other options. I just don't think that, for a team like the Bears, which needs a lot more work, and you're probably going to see Eberflus is probably going to be gone. I don't think Bill's going to be interested in that. If there's any validity to the whole like unsettling stuff that's kind of coming out of Carolina with Frank Reich, I don't think Bill wants to touch Carolina because they're in a rebuilding phase, and Bill's priority is the wins record, right? So the Chargers kind of make the most sense. So, betting man, gun to my head, they mutually part ways, and Bill goes to LA.
All right, Jay, how about you? How you feeling about all of it?
He's getting fired or a mutual parting of ways, and he will be going to the Washington Commanders.
All right. I would
I
say,
just I just think that Riverboat Ron's tenure in Washington has run dry. I guess you could say that it's crashed up on, the beaches. So I think they're going to see a change of command in Washington. And
pun
honestly, I mean,
intended.
they have a, huh?
Pun intended.
Yeah, you could, yeah, pun intended. But I mean, Bill is from the DC area, so I could kind of see him going home and just finishing his career out next 2 to 3 years, get the wins record at home, and then just, sail off into the sunset.
Jr. with the knowledge bomb of where Bill Belichick is from.
Yeah.
Did not
So
did not did not know that. Was born in
that,
Nashville.
Well,
Was born
he's
in
that's
from,
kind of
Nashville, but
what.
yeah,
he grew up around
Yeah,
the
because he was a
DC,
Navy
Maryland
guy.
area
yeah. He went
Yeah.
to Annapolis. He went to Annapolis High School. And let's see.
because his dad was the Navy coach.
Yeah. So
Correct.
that's kind of where I'm at. We're 3 for 3. I think we all agree, based on everything we're hearing, he'll be gone. I at this moment still think that Kraft will trade him rather than release him or fire him or
Well, I
mutually
mean,
part ways.
technically, it's firing him kind of in a way because you're getting rid of him one way or another.
Yes,
But
Yeah,
yeah, I
just
agree.
technicality.
yeah.
And
My
to
thoughts real quick.
JR's
Oh, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Sorry, Matt. Go ahead.
To JR's point, and I guess also to counter the LA is I think he'll want to stay in like the East Coast and preferably even the Northeast. Um, I don't see him going to the Jets for obvious reasons. The Giants seem to be happy riding with Dayball at least another year. I would be surprised, like, I mean, maybe Buffalo if they fired McDermott. Like that would be a really good spot for him if they fired McDermott. But that's a big iffy. And if I'll tell you this, if that was any bit of a possibility, Kraft wouldn't let that happen.
Oh no, he's not trading
Yeah,
him within the division.
yeah.
Yeah.
Kraft's not going to trade him to another AFC team, in my
So
opinion,
yeah,
unless
I
it.
know. I agree.
Well,
I agree.
I say that I would say he wouldn't trade him to another divisional opponent because obviously I literally just said probably the Chargers, but my guess, just to interject, is that part of this conversation is Kraft's going to go to Bill and say, would like to go in a new direction. And then based on what jobs are open, say, if you want to go take one of those jobs, by all means go for it. Or if you want to go somewhere where there currently is not an opening for head coach, I'm happy to facilitate a trade and send you where you want to go within reason.
Yeah. So
I
my
think
my guess would be Washington, like Jr. said, for the
I think
reason
he's
of
staying on the East Coast too because his daughter's lacrosse coach at Holy Cross. So
yeah. I mean that's also part of it. Uh,
So what do you think? This obviously is for you, Jr. What do you think if they're going to if he's going to go to Washington? What do you think happens to Rivera? Because Rivera's still under contract, so he'd have to be
they'll
let
fire
go.
him.
So he'd have to be let go.
yeah, I think they'll fire him.
They'll fire
Um,
Rivera. If you have the chance to get like the greatest, like even though it hasn't been the greatest recently, if you have the chance to get the greatest coach all time, and all you got to do is fire your head coach, you fire your head coach within a second.
well,
So
not on the same thing, but
here's my one thing on it.
you saw that in baseball. The Cubs fired their coach just to bring in somebody else. You see it in other sports too.
I think that they'll there's a 50-50 chance I would say that they fire Rivera no matter what, even if it's not to bring in Belichick. Um, if they couldn't bring in Belichick, maybe they stick with Rivera. But I think if he does go to Washington, which I would at this point say that is the most likely landing spot for him, I think there would have to be a sense of an agreement or tentative plan that says, all right, I'm Bill Belichick. I'm going to coach for minimum 3 more years. And when that's done, someone like Steve would take over. Basically, a succession plan that goes beyond just Bill Belichick.
I wonder if he takes
I
Mayo
say
with him.
that Mayo won't follow him.
No, I mean, well,
I
mean, we're also operating under the assumption that Mayo was, in some way, shape, or form, promised, at least at a bare minimum, he was promised the opportunity to be a favorite for the job when Bill was gone. Otherwise,
I think he's still one of the favorites for the job, no matter what.
I would say at the moment he is the favorite.
And
Like if I was betting odds, I would say Mayo's the favorite. But here's the thing: like if Belichick leaves, Mayo's not following him to Washington, knowing that Steve would also be following Belichick. And if if Mayo's gonna leave New England, the team, the state, he's not doing it for a lateral move. He's gonna take that time and say, okay, Belichick's gone, I'm leaving, so I'm gonna take at bare minimum a DC job, like a full blown DC job. So I don't see him following. I could very much see, Belichick going to Washington, Steve following him as you could call him the official DC.
Josh McDaniels is offensive coordinator.
and Josh McDaniels as
well, they still have the enemy.
Well, at that point, I guess he could maybe keep the enemy, but a lot of times when you have a new head coach, you bring in.
If he was smart, he would keep the enemy.
Well, you also got to think too, right?
Yeah,
you figure this will be.
McDaniels is a good OC still.
I don't know. Good's kind of a strong word.
He's still a pretty good OC.
He's okay OC.
I mean, is he? I mean,
yes.
In the first half of the first game, the Raiders had, after they fired him, they scored more points than in any game Josh McDaniels scored.
That has a lot. But that has a lot more to do with everything that's going on in that team. That team was a disaster mentally.
But if he's an offensive-minded head coach, why is the offense a disaster? That's my big thing.
Well, it's also Jimmy. Jimmy just sucks. That's like.
Aiden O'Connell sucks too.
What's that?
Aiden O'Connell's pretty shit too.
Yeah, he would be going into Washington with a pretty strong offense to work with. Sam Howell looks pretty good. He
looks competent. That's what I
think he leads the league in passing yards.
I mean, yeah, he does.
Something like that. Like he's performing pretty well. Terry McLaurin's there. Jahan Dotson's there. I want to say Curtis Samuel's a free agent. B. Rob's there. Yeah. I'm not sure where the offensive line is in their contracts, but the offense would be in pretty decent shape. They just traded away some defensive guys, but as a whole, their defense is in pretty solid shape. So, I mean, it would be a pretty good spot for Belichick to go, and I think that would be a decent whole setup.
I wonder, this has been on my mind the past few days when you just said about that. They traded away a few defensive players. I've been wondering, what if they were trying to stock up picks because there maybe is an agreement between the Pats and Belichick and the Pats and the Commanders, because they're trying to stock up their picks they're going to use to trade for him.
Theoretically, maybe. I mean, I just also think it was time to I'm surprised they traded both guys, but
they weren't going to pay
at least one of them. But I mean, both of them, yeah. My only thing with that is, well, it kind of goes to my next question: is what do you think, if traded, compensation is for Belichick?
I don't think we're getting a first for him. I think you're probably going to get a minimum of a second.
That's kind of my mindset, is maybe Washington second, which will be, I don't know, 45 to 50 range.
I'd take 2 seconds for him.
So Washington currently owns 2 second-round picks in 2024. They have the Bears' second-round pick, which currently projects to be 37 overall, and their own first-round pick is 41st.
I'd take both of them.
I don't think you get both of them.
Yeah,
I think maybe you get like both of them with Belichick in like a third, in the Pats' third.
I don't know, man. I think you can get both of
moving
them
on
and
from
use
like
both of them.
65 to. I guess that the concept would be, are they also trading Steve Belichick? You get what I'm saying? Like, if there's a long-term succession plan to Belichick that goes beyond him coaching maybe 2 or 3 years, then maybe. But 2 seconds that are both in the top 45, that's
Well, you're
that's a big
getting
price.
Steven and Brian with him.
Does Brian still coach?
Yeah.
I feel like
he's a safety coach. He just tore his ACL.
I feel like you never hear anything about Brian. It's always
He tore his
Steve.
ACL before the season.
Yeah, he was away from the team. He was like doing more like administrative like meetings stuff for the first
He was
6 or
doing
7
desk work.
weeks of the season.
Okay.
Yeah, like he was in the meetings and coaching, but he wasn't on the field because I think he's still in like a cast. He just can, doing his recovery. He's just walking around now.
Yeah, and to add on to like the going to the Commanders thing, you figure this is what the third offseason in a row where Bieniemy is talked about as an NFL head coach. He's an assistant head. He's also he has the job of assistant, right? So he's at least viewed in a good light with Washington. And he did, I mean, granted, he had Pat Mahomes, right? So that makes his job a little bit easier when he was
Chiefs offense doesn't look good without him, just being honest.
Well, you figure they also don't have Tyreek Hill, and they have a bunch of young wide receivers. So, yeah, a mix of both probably, right? But you figure he's probably going to be in the mix for head coaching jobs. And keep in mind, if I'm not mistaken, I'd have to look this up. He was in the running, right, when the Chargers hired Staley.
Mm-hmm. He got interviewed.
So
here's the thing: he's been passed on numerous times, and
he's also
I think he'll maybe eventually get a gig, but like I think Bieniemy is, I don't know, he'll eventually get a gig probably somewhere, but I think there's a reason that he's not getting any of these jobs.
Maybe if Chicago fires Eberflus, they hire him.
It's those racist NFL owners, I tell you.
Well, they say he has like a pass, but like, who gives a shit? Like Mike McDaniel's the head coach, and he was a horrible, like, raging alcoholic and everything. And
I mean, to be fair, like how many NFL players who are high profile don't have baggage?
Ray Lewis killed somebody.
I think it goes beyond the baggage, though. I think a lot of them just don't think that he's a good fit to be a head coach. Like that's what I've read a few times is like some guys are just meant to be coordinators, like Josh McDaniels. Yeah, like Josh McDaniels. He's just meant to be an offensive
Nathaniel Hackett.
What a disaster! What a disaster he was.
Yeah.
Well, I think the only reason that the Broncos hired him is because they thought they were getting A-Rod.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that was still when they hadn't sorted out their quarterback situation.
They hadn't traded for Russ yet.
Yeah, they did.
No.
Yeah,
they did. They hired Hackett before.
Hackett was the coach last year, wasn't he?
Yeah, but they hadn't traded for Russ when they hired him.
But he was still Russ was still the quarterback when Hackett.
Yes. I'm just trying to say is they hadn't gotten Russ yet when they hired him.
Hackett was hired before the Russ trade. I got you.
Yes.
Speaking of that, props to Russ. He looks, I mean, not like prime Russ, but
he looked good the other night.
But he looks pretty good.
Maybe he's actually buying into the idea that he needs to just be a dual threat quarterback and not a pocket passer. You guys heard about that, right? That the rumor that he struggled so much last year was because he wanted to be more of a pocket passer and run less, and he was obviously awful without the ability to make moves with his legs. He just didn't want to be a running quarterback anymore.
That throw he made on the run, that was it a touchdown or was it ruled incomplete?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
No, that was the go-ahead score, and then Yeah, no, well, not the go-ahead score, but that was one because they obviously they won on the last-second field goal. But that was the one where it was the toe drag in the end zone, right?
Yeah, so it was a touchdown. Then.
Yeah,
It was.
I saw clips, but
Yeah, it was. That was a nasty play by the wide receiver too.
Yeah, Cortland Sutton. Cortland Sutton too. He looks like a dog again.
Yeah.
His stock fell over the last couple of years. Anyways, moving on, a little bit of other Patriots news. Jack Jones was released. He is now in Oakland. He was claimed by the Raiders. Just a little background on that is he followed Antonio Pierce to Arizona State. Pierce has worked with Jack Jones before. Jack Jones is close with Pierce's son. So it was a logical fit for him. Jack Jones said today the really only thing that he could say, he's like, I can't talk about it, blah, blah, blah. It just wasn't a good fit. I think it really came down to was the Patriots had some, rather strict rules, maybe stricter rules than the average other team, and Jack Jones didn't want to follow them.
Yeah,
so when you talk about
when you have a pass like he does.
Yeah, well, I think the Patriots have a little bit more strict rules than other teams in terms of like off the field things, meetings, curfews, all that. And Jack Jones felt like it wasn't a good fit because Jack Jones didn't want to follow those rules.
Well, Jack Jones Jack Jones wanted to do what Jack Jones wanted to do.
Yeah, exactly. So like that's what it came down to. He's not a good fit because he didn't want to follow the rules. But what are
those rules have gotten
thoughts?
A lot stricter since Hernandez. So
yeah, what are your thoughts overall on the release? And then what are your kind of overall thoughts on the whole 2022 draft class? At one point, that draft class looked very good, and at one point it was like 6 months ago. It looked very good, very good shape. And now all of a sudden, that has taken a complete 180. It looks rather lousy-ish. But what are your overall thoughts on it, JR? You can start us off.
About the release, bye-bye. Bye-bye. We're good. Like, he made 2 plays his rookie year. He picked off Rodgers, and everybody thought he was the second coming of Ty Law. He was an okay cornerback. He was average in coverage. I don't really have I don't know. I think he was cool. I think he was good, but I think he was really overrated by the fan base. He's replaceable. So that's really
current talent wise, yeah. I think the upside was that he could turn into like J.C. Jackson, like what J.C. Jackson was, where he developed his way up and became a clear-cut cornerback one.
Well, I don't know if you saw the stat, but last year he had a 40% completion rate when quarterbacks had targeted him. This year he had a 76% completion rate when quarterbacks targeted him. I know he only played a couple games, but that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. He was getting burnt up and down the field the past couple games when he played.
Yeah, well, that's probably in part why he was not playing as much, and he didn't like that. And it's really been just a disaster since his arrest. There is no doubt that whether it was Kraft or Belichick or someone stuck their neck out and got a favor and got those charges dropped.
Yeah, they did him a favor. Like they saved his career.
They gave him every opportunity. They gave especially with that, he clearly had every opportunity to clean up his act and straighten the arrow, so to speak, and show up to team meetings on time, show up to team hotels on the time, don't break curfew. Like they did him such a favor because they believed in his talent and his attitude got in the way.
The fact is, if he was a normal person, he'd probably be in jail right now.
Yeah, all 3 of us would be.
Or if he didn't play for the Patriots,
we'd all be detained and probably sent to Gitmo.
Yeah, exactly. And so he got a gift. He got literally a second chance after already having second chances in college, and he blew it again. So I get the talent was there. I think the upside was there, but the fact of the matter is it takes more than just talent to be good in the NFL. It takes a lot more than just talent to be good in the NFL. And he was not willing to meet those standards. Maybe things change in Oakland, and Antonio Pierce runs a different boat that can get the best out of him, but I, I don't see it happening. He'll probably turn on Antonio Pierce when Pierce has no choice
He
but
gets benched.
to bench him because he's getting burned.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, Vegas loves their. Vegas has a thing for criminals. I'll tell you that.
It's an
Yeah, I
awesome
saw a
city.
thing.
It's an awesome city for somebody who doesn't like to make curfew. It's a great spot for that.
Yeah,
Jeez.
casinos and clubs are open till 6 a.m.
He'll be out there at the all night buffet.
So that's Trent Brown.
No,
Speaking of Trent Brown,
that's Pablo Sandoval.
Oh yeah, Cookie.
Guy had an eating
Trent Brown's
clause in
out
his
again.
Red Sox
It
contract.
seems.
How crazy is that? Couldn't order room service from hotels because he just crushed 4 cheeseburgers at 4:30 in the morning. Anyway, Trent Brown.
Yeah,
we digress.
Trent Brown's out. Looks to be out again.
He just doesn't care.
I don't.
Nah,
really
that injury
know.
looks bad.
I don't really know what to make of it. But more of the offense specifically. Where are you guys standing on Mac Jones? Are you done with him? Are you looking for, a replacement in the offseason? Are you done with him just this year? What's your overall thoughts and mindset with him in the short term, meaning the next few weeks, and in the long term?
So for me, there's no reason for Mac to play the rest of the year, although I fully suspect he'll be the starter with maybe he'll have a short leash. I don't know. I mean, obviously Bill had seen enough, and that's why Zappy came out for the 2-minute drill or whatever it was, 2-minute drive, whatever you want to call it, down the stretch on Sunday. But report out today.
Wait, hold on. That was a terrible decision.
To take Mac
That was
out?
a terrible decision to have Zappy. Like 2 minutes, like you're just gonna throw Zappy in there cold. 2 minutes, like drive, and if you're actually trying to win the game, which you have to I guess believe that they were trying to win.
Well, yeah, but at that point, that was probably more an emotional decision of like, okay, my quarterback is making putrid decisions when that's supposed to be his strong suit.
Yeah, I mean, if it was more of an emotional decision, that's fine. It was
probably a situation where Bill probably felt, look, it can't be worse with Zappy.
Oh, it can.
And was
it can be.
So
He showed it.
I mean, just to play devil's advocate.
Who was the wide receiver on that play?
There's not a. I'm going to assume it was Douglas. I can't imagine anybody else would have been down there.
It wasn't Douglas.
But I don't know for sure. We'd have to look it up. But like, I also look at that and say there's not a 0% chance that Mac doesn't throw that ball. There's just based on the fact. I mean, obviously the interception he threw at the end, 4 minutes to go in the game, was obviously horrendous. Like, that's just at whatever, at that point you're frustrated and you're like, look, like Mac's playing like absolute garbage. Like, it can't, like, it's either going to be, maybe I can get flash in a pan and Zappy can do something. Just frustrated and say, like, Mac needs to sit for the rest of the game. So to come back to the point here, I fully expect Mac to still play the rest of the way. Whether or not he has a short leash and, if they're out of games, he's just going to get benched again, I don't know. Report was out today that I guess today was their lone practice before the upcoming bye week. I guess it was today only. I don't know if they're going to do walkthroughs or film sessions or whatever before next week. But all the first team reps at practice today went to Mac Jones. So indication.
They didn't see. No reporters saw the full practice.
It was reported. It was reported at 98.5 that the first team reps went to Mac Jones.
Yeah, the first, they only get to see the first handful of reps.
Well, yeah, during the media portion, Mac got all the first team reps.
Yeah.
So what they did when the media wasn't around, who knows? But that would indicate that Mac's probably still starting games the rest of the way. I really don't know what to expect. I mean, I draw comparisons sort of in this thought process to 2020, right? That was Cam Newton year. Yeah, 2020, when they were mathematically eliminated from the playoffs in week whatever the second. They had 2 games left and they were mathematically eliminated. And I remember Matt and I were talking about, okay, you've got Jarrett Stidham, who was what, first year player that year, second year player,
Second year player.
And you're like, okay, like the season's gone. Like, why don't you see if Jarrett Stidham has anything? And Mac, Bill still played Cam. Didn't even play Stidham. Cam started, finished the game.
I was so angry at that.
Like, but because of that, you think about it and you go, well, based on what Bill has done in the past, what do we have to base a thought process on that he's going to play Zappy? And I think that he looks at it and says that Zappy's worse than Mac. And so,
well, they cut him for a reason.
Right. Well, I think we can speculate on why they did that. My guess is they probably did it because they knew nobody was going to claim him and they'd rather keep somebody. That was my belief, is that they cut him knowing that nobody was going to.
That was a ballsy cut, knowing that the last thing that people saw was like his play last year, which looked relatively decent
against the 2 worst defenses in the NFL.
That was defense. I was baffled by that cut.
I was not. Here's the thing: I could have done what Zappy did against those defenses, and I'm not saying that with any sense.
And I'm not a professional athlete.
With no remorse. Anybody with an ounce of athletic ability and an intelligent head on their shoulders could have beat the Lions and the Browns. Like, let's be honest.
He did against the Packers too for 3/4 of a game.
Okay, the Packers defense isn't that good. They have
but
2.5
year Alexander.
But that's
I agree with what you're saying.
But that's one player. It's not like he's going against like the Legion. It's not like he's tearing up the Seattle defense of 10 years ago. But anyway,
what frustrated me bringing up your Stidham when you brought up Stidham. I feel like if Stidham started the final 3 or 4 weeks, even the last 2 when they were like mathematically eliminated, there's a chance. And this is just based off what he did the last year in Oakland.
Vegas.
Vegas, man. We're not in Cali anymore.
Oof. I was gonna let the first one slide. What was that saying?
What he did in Vegas.
Only one, shame on me.
And I say, there's, because obviously McDaniels was there, and McDaniels was the one that was coaching him last year. That, like, if we saw solid QB play from Stidham, maybe Belichick just rolls with him in 2021 and not spend a pick on Mac. Would I bet on that? No. But, like,
they probably still do it because going into that draft, and I think we can look back at it and say that it's probably correct, the rumor was that Bill didn't have the final say that year, that it was a collaborative effort, and the general consensus of the room is what was going to take precedent. Because typically, right, like, what does Bill do? Bill doesn't take quarterbacks that high. He doesn't take wide receivers. He doesn't take, he doesn't do that.
You can't say that that's like the general consensus, because he had Brady for 2 decades. Of course, he wasn't taking a QB first.
But what I'm saying though is that even when he was at the end of like first round picks, first round drafts, because of the success that they had, he was still going against what his scouting department and offensive personnel was recommending that he do. So I look back at it and say he probably was fine taking Mac Jones, but that if it was his decision alone, he would not have drafted Mac, regardless of what happened the year prior. That he would have been just as happy taking, I don't have the draft in front of me, somebody else at 15, and then taking like Davis Mills in the early part of the second round.
I get that, and I guess it's a little bit, it's emphasized a little bit because Cesario took Davis Mills too, and obviously he was Belichick's, protege or whatever for so long. But I don't know. I still don't really buy into the concept that Belichick, or let me rephrase that, like, there's the notion that Kraft forced the Mac Jones pick. And I
think he had a big influence on it.
I would agree.
I think that Kraft put an emphasis on like trusting scouts more. But like I don't buy into the notion that Kraft came in and was like, Belichick, you want, I don't know, player A, but we're going with Mac, and you don't have a choice. I really have a difficult time seeing Belichick allowing that to happen. Because technically, in the clause, like his contract says that he makes those decisions.
Yeah, but when your boss walks in the room and says, "Do this," if you say no, that's not good. Like,
what is Kraft gonna do? Fire him?
Yeah.
I mean, could have. You should have.
I mean, right. if he says you need to take a quarterback or your job's on the line, he's going to take a quarterback. He's not going to risk his job. He's not going to risk upsetting his boss when they had unprecedented success for 2 decades. Kraft has repeatedly said that their production, if you want to call it that, for the last 4 years has been way less than acceptable. I'm not going to say that.
Well, that wasn't 4 years. At that point, they were 7-9 for 1 year with post Brady.
No, I'm just saying the message has been pretty consistent that the organization's goal is to win football games. And you win football games by identifying the next franchise quarterback. So do I think that he walked in the room and said, you have to take Mac Jones? He probably didn't go about it in that sense, but he probably had a hard talk with Bill at the end of the year and said, look, like we need to change our draft strategy because the NFL is moving in a different direction than what it was 20 years ago when I hired you. Like we need to start looking at
a different direction. Then why would you draft a
different approach? Why
would you draft a slow white quarterback that can't run?
You literally just described Tom Brady.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, but you just said the offense
because
Bill's era is changing.
Bill's history would have been he would have traded back from 15 because teams were calling them at 15 and saying, we want Mac Jones. This is our offer. We want Mac Jones. Like the Saints were rumored to be very, very aggressive in trying to trade up from 28 to 15 because they were in desperate need of a quarterback at that point. So Bill Belichick of old, maybe he doesn't move back 13 spots, but Bill Belichick of old would have traded out at 15. Somebody would have taken Mac Jones and he would have ended up with, I don't know, somebody like
defensive lineman,
Kwity Paye, who was taken at 21, Caleb Farley, who went the next pick. Like he would have gone with somebody else, right? And then, probably gone with a different quarterback at the end. Like that's what Bill Belichick would have done. That's what he always does. He always looks at it. And
get it. My only thing.
I'm just gonna I'll end it with saying, and JR said it very eloquently, so I'll just reiterate his point, is that I think Kraft had a very heavy-handed influence in that draft pick.
Yes, my only thing with this is 2 things. One is we never in the 20 whatever years up at that point that Belichick was in charge had a significant need for a quarterback. That was the first draft. I guess you could say the 2020 draft too, but that was the first draft or second draft that they ever really needed a quarterback. And I still don't buy if Belichick came in and was like, no, we're not drafting Mac Jones. I don't buy into the notion that Kraft would have overruled them and said it's happening. So maybe Kraft was like, we need to trust the scouts more. But unless Belichick signed off at the bare minimum signed off on the pick, it was like, oh yeah, okay, I'm fine with that.
Fair. And I'm just going to throw it out there. Thoughts? But because you brought up 2020, the Patriots could have had Jonathan Taylor or Jalen Hurts in the second round. And they went with Kyle Duggar, who's been very, very good. But we're going into an offseason where he's a free agent. And they didn't prioritize locking him up last year to keep him away from free agency. So, in theory, when does the league year start? Mid-March? So 5 months from now, we could be talking about Bill losing a second-round defensive back when he could have had Jalen Hurts, who's a fringe MVP, franchise quarterback, Super Bowl winner. Where
My agenda's still going strong about that, though.
And so you can look back and say that, like, here we are yet again drafting a second-round defensive back when other teams are identifying elite talent at skill positions. And now, granted, obviously, quarterback up here, running back way down here. I know the screen's kind of off, so the scale's weird. But, like, Jalen Hurts in year 2 was almost a Super Bowl champion. Now, granted, the offensive situation in Philadelphia and the defensive situation in Philadelphia is arguably better than it is here. So, but you look at
arguably.
I would say that fully healthy, I would say that the Patriots defense might be better off than the Eagles defense.
Yeah, but the Patriots, the
offensively,
Eagles have the best team in football on paper.
Yeah, by far.
I'll debate you on that off the record because I disagree. But to come back to it, it's more the influence, right? Like, I don't think Kraft walked into the draft room and said, it's Mac Jones or your job, right? Like, obviously that's more the extreme. I know that we had said, well, what are you going to do if he says draft Mac Jones and he says no, it's fire him, like, right? But I don't think it's that to that extreme. But in every other draft year, Bill's kind of operated similar to what we saw from him from 2000 to 2019, where he was trading back, maximizing assets, and still getting a player of the quality, of similar quality that he could have taken 3, 4, 10 picks earlier, but was able to add picks and move back, right? Did that last year. He traded from 14 to 17, added a pick, and got Christian Gonzalez.
Yeah, but QB is just such a different it's a whole different world.
Right, and I get that, and that's a whole different conversation for another day about how so many teams just miss on these quarterbacks year in and year out. I just think that there's the pressure of winning, right? We won for 20 years. Unprecedented. Won for 20 years. Probably we'll never see anything like that ever again. Maybe the Chiefs will do it, but who knows, right? Because I think Andy
20 years.
Phenomenal. Well, no, because Andy Reid
will be
younger,
gone.
yes. But yeah, but like talent-wise, the Chiefs maybe, right? But you're talking about unprecedented 20-year success. And the pressure became, hey, we don't have a quarterback. We just had the greatest of all time. He's moved on. He wins a Super Bowl year 1 without us. So they're feeling all the external pressure, right? Like, Kraft's big picture goal is he wants to increase season tickets every year. He wants more money, and he wants to continue building what he spent the last 20 years building, right? Like, improvements on the stadium, like putting money in his pocket, right? Like, his goal is to make money and put a winning product on the field. He's very invested in the community. Well, in the modern day NFL, you don't win with, average Joe Schmo under center. I think that there's rare exceptions, right? Like the 49ers are probably that exception. Like Brock Purdy's not that spectacular of a talent, but he's surrounded by elite offensive weapons and their defense is ridiculous, right? So that helps him look better. I just feel with external pressures of, hey, like, the modern day NFL is we need somebody who's not just average. We need somebody who's, a fringe top 12 guy who is athletic, makes right decisions, and he can help us win games, led to being more influential in the draft room than anything else.
All right, Jay, what are you going to say?
Y'all aren't going to believe who won the AL Cy Young.
Well,
Garrett Cole?
Who were
Cole.
Who were the 3 finalists?
I think it was. Hold up, let me look. And Blake Snell won the NL.
Blake Snell doesn't surprise me. I'm trying to think. Who were the finalists for the American League Cy Young? Oh, well, he was up against Sonny Gray and Kevin Gausman. How is that a surprise?
Yeah. Well, it's not really a surprise. It's just like they let Kermit win a Cy Young this year.
I mean, to be fair, he had a 2.63 ERA.
Yeah, he had a really good year.
He
had a really good year.
He was nasty.
Anyways, I think it really, in the end, came more down to they needed a quarterback, and he wasn't willing to trade up for, I would guess that Mac wasn't his first option among those quarterbacks. I'm not saying you trade up to 1 or even 2 or 3. But, like, he must have liked Mac more than Fields. And I just don't.
Well,
I just think quarterback was a need. And when 15 came, they were like, "All right, I like him. Like we need a quarterback." So they took a shot on it. I just don't buy into the notion that Belichick was against the pick and it was forced on him.
all right. I'm gonna lay down my opinion. I'll make mine quick. Do I think Mac Jones is gonna be the starter from here on out? I think. I mean, we know Bill, like Ben said and everything like that. He didn't turn to Stidham in 2020 when he could have. He, as a fan of Mac in a way, like coming into the NFL, I was high on him coming out of Alabama. I thought he was going to be a lot better than what he's turned out to be. Granted, being it's on both sides, he didn't help himself, but Belichick kind of didn't help him at all. He kind of fucked his development. But
Amen, brother.
it's gonna be sad when he's gone. I mean, a lot of us kind of want him gone, but not for the reasons because we hate him. It's just because he's just not performing to the standard that we thought he would.
Belichick, the coach, is still fine.
I'm not talking about Belichick. I'm talking about Mac.
Talking about Mac.
Yeah, I lost what you're saying. Go ahead.
It sucks that he's probably gonna end up getting traded or cut going into this new league year because we're gonna draft a quarterback no matter who's the GM.
Speaking of that, Patriots are the betting favorites for Caleb Williams right now.
Yeah, we are.
That's interesting.
I'm just say this: I hope the kid, wherever he goes, finds success and wins a Super Bowl. I really do. I really hope he wins a Super Bowl as a starter, just as like a fuck you to Bill Belichick. I really hope he does that because. Yes, there's things he needs to work on and there's things he needs to improve himself that he's not working on. But it doesn't help when your head coach and GM has sabotaged your career from the very beginning, basically. Letting the kid throw 3 times in Buffalo. I mean, I get it. Like, it was really windy. But that killed confidence, okay? Bringing in Joe Judge and Matt Patricia as his offensive coordinators in year 2 doesn't help. Not drafting him competent weapons or signing competent receivers. It's at fault. This year, giving him Juju Smith-Schuster, and granted, I didn't want to keep Jacoby, but giving him Juju Smith-Schuster as number 1 receiver in Devontae Parker, come on. Like, the writing's on the walls for both, but I hope Mac has success wherever he goes. And if he ends up in Minnesota, holy shit.
Minnesota's a really good spot for him.
The Vikings have said that their goal is to re-sign Kirk Cousins in the offseason.
He's not staying in Minnesota. He's walking.
Here's the thing with
Has
Minnesota.
there been a report saying that he wants out? He wants out?
No, but here's my thing with Minnesota and Kirk Cousins. They have the opportunity. This is the perfect time to kind of reset at quarterback. I think they need to reset as a team. Defensively, they need to get younger. Offensively, I just don't think that they're. You bring back Kirk Cousins next year. Are they a Super Bowl contender?
No.
Like, I just don't really see it.
I mean, it depends.
You're a playoff contender.
Yeah, they're a playoff contender. They're probably going to be a wild card at best.
I mean, as of right now, they're 6-4 in the wild card.
Yeah,
I think they're smart. They'll keep Josh Dobbs.
I think they'll be a wild card team. Like, again, maybe. Like, but here's the thing. Like, Kirk Cousins is going to be coming off a torn ACL.
Achilles.
ACL? Yeah.
Achilles.
He's going to want a 2-year, $80 million deal. Like,
I highly doubt he's going to want $40 million.
I don't know about that. Maybe 2 years.
Daniel Jones just got.
Daniel Jones isn't 35.
Okay. Daniel Jones is also
2-year deal.
11 years younger than him.
Age,
It's
absolutely.
a 2-year deal.
I guarantee you Kirk Cousins will not get a $40 million a year deal in the offseason.
He's been getting $35 million fully guaranteed.
No one is going to give No one's going to give $40 million in $80 million in guaranteed money to a 35-year-old quarterback coming off of a torn Achilles.
I'm not saying it will be fully guaranteed, but he's going to get minimum $35 million next year. Minimum.
That's not
whoever his agent is. If he gets $35 million per year on a 2-year deal for Kirk Cousins, I want his agent to negotiate for me to be able to get that money.
Kirk Cousins has been playing the system perfectly. He's had fully guaranteed deals like the last 5 years.
Because he's a good Christian boy. That's why.
For the record, the only reason he's getting $35 million this year is because of his injury. That was an injury protection. His base pay was $10 million with a $6.25 million signing bonus. He's only getting an extra $20 million because he tore his Achilles.
What was his then he must have made more money last year. Must have been part of an extension.
2022, he made $40 million in cash.
There's no way he's playing for $16 million this year.
So his cap hit is $20.25 million because of injury. It was an injury protection. So last year, base salary $5 million, $16.25 million signing bonus, $10 million roster bonus. So that's $31 million right there.
He signed a 1-year,
$35 million guaranteed contract. And he's getting but the cap hit is weird because of his injury. But here's the thing. No one is giving Kirk Cousins he'll be 36 next season. No one's giving
He's coming off a ruptured Achilles.
No one's giving a 36-year-old quarterback off a ruptured Achilles $80 million over 2 years.
Unless their name is Aaron Rodgers.
Tell me, put it this way.
I will buy you a year supply of high noons if Kirk Cousins gets $80 million over 2 seasons in the offseason.
Brother, that is like $50,000.
I'm not saying guaranteed. You're just saying in general.
Matt drinks 12 high noons a year.
So that's a case. That's $25.
I drink more than 12.
I'll buy you a case of high noons if Kirk Cousins gets a 2-year, $80 million contract in the offseason.
Matt, I'll buy you a Pedro Martinez bobblehead.
I want 2 8-packs.
So
16 high noons?
Wait a minute.
Is that a record?
I offered you a case and you counter offer with 2 8-packs.
Well, what's a case? They don't come in cases.
A case of anything unless it's wine is 24 cans.
They don't come in cases.
High noons don't come in 24.
They come in 4 and 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
8 times 3.
Hey, hold on, hold. They have 12 packs now. They have 12 packs now.
And
all right, 2 12 packs.
8 times 4 is 20. 8 times 3 is 24 for the record.
All right, okay, 24 high noons.
That's a case.
There you go. Well, they don't come in a case. That's what I'm saying.
Nothing comes in a case anymore. When you buy from a distributor, wild, insane, non-sports related tangent. When you buy a case from a distributor, it's 24 cans because you buy by the case, and then they sell it as 8-packs.
Yeah, but we're shopping at fucking Shaw's and Stop and Shop right now, okay?
Hey, listen here, Publix, with the greatest beer selection of all time anywhere in the United States.
We don't have the greatest beer selection. Are you shitting me?
Hey, you can get High Ally at Publix. That's good enough for me.
Yeah, you can get High Ally, but it's a Florida brew. That's why.
Let's move on. We've gone way too long on the Patriots already.
Yeah, it's true. We have. I digress. Here's some scotch for you.
We'll transition. Let's do very quick thoughts on the Celtics. I mean, let's just skip the Celtics. Let's go straight to the Bruins. I want to give JR.
Angus is out.
And Jaylen Brown's out tonight.
Well, who gives a shit about him?
What's your up-to-date thoughts on the Bruins? I mean, there's not a lot that's changed, but man, they look like a machine. Yeah, I know. You're in a Bruins jersey.
Not just any Bruins jersey. This is a hand-stitched, they're called the Game Worn collection, but it wasn't Game Worn, but it is hand-stitched, made in Canada. So it's the ones they officially wear on the ice.
Oh, it wasn't made by some 12-year-old kid in Bangladesh?
Wow, we're in the hands of a famous person.
This is a made in. This is bro. When I buy hand stitched, I always buy made in Canada, baby. I gotta have the real thing. But no,
100%, 100%.
dude, they look awesome. Like I can't complain, man. This team just looks so awesome. I've been having so much fun watching them. I've been able to
12-1 and
watch
2.
more recently.
12-1
Huh?
and 2, I believe, is the record.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
12
Is that I haven't looked at the. Is it best in hockey?
Second best in hockey.
Records or points or both?
Both.
Okay.
Vegas is ahead of us.
Damn Vegas.
Well, just like last year, they were ahead of us until like ended November, early December, and then we just turned up the gas and didn't look back until we choked a 3-1 lead in the playoffs. But
Oh, hold on. I stand corrected. The Bruins have the most points in hockey.
Oh, we do now.
12-1 and 2. They have 26 points. The Vegas Golden Knights are 12-3 and 1 with 25 points.
Ooh.
So that extra,
I think Vegas plays tonight though.
That extra overtime loss is benefiting us.
Yeah, what, the one against Montreal?
Anyways, what are your updated thoughts on them?
They look fucking awesome. And I cannot wait to go to a game this season, whether back home in Massachusetts or down here in Florida. I'm so excited for this season.
Are tickets expensive to go see a Panthers game?
No.
Oh, by all means. Go to is it Amway? They play at Amway, right? Go to Amway.
No, Amway's in Orlando where I am.
Isn't that where Florida plays?
No.
Oh, no, they play at Amalie. I'm sorry.
No, that's Tampa.
No, that's Tampa. Where the hell does Florida play?
They've renamed their arena so many different times. I don't even know the name of it anymore. But they're in Celebration, Florida. Florida, Miami.
Oh.
They're like 15 minutes from Hialeah.
The Bruins will be celebrating in Celebration.
Yeah, like I've gone to a couple Bruins games down there. The tickets, like for nosebleeds, are like $40. But
you can't even park at TD Garden for $40.
I mean, unless you take a train. But no,
it's still $25 a person.
Yeah. But no, they look awesome. I mean, I can't wait to see this team in person. Hopefully I get to go to a game like down here, but I'm supposed to be coming back home in the new year. So I'll probably end up going to the Garden and seeing them play again. But all my thoughts and everything has just been like hammered out on like my Twitter and everything like that. This team looks awesome. I didn't have any expectations. I've said it a million times going into the year. And they've blown me away so far. And I really can't wait to see what else happens. Like, I hope, I would like a nice little pickup at the trade deadline in February.
Well, they're going to have to invest in this team. Like,
I really want Elias Lindholm or Connor Garland really badly.
I just can't get over, like, I know last year, like, we felt like they were going to be a pretty good team, and they ended up being one of the best regular season teams ever. This year,
the best regular season team ever.
This team, like, it's just like I feel like I'm still not believing in them completely, if that makes sense.
Oh no, I'm not.
Like, for obvious reasons, and by when I say believe in them, it's not that like, I don't expect them to keep this pace all year, obviously, but like, do I believe in them that they're the best team in the East? Like,
technically on paper, no. Toronto should be the best team in the East right now on paper, but from the eye test and performance, yes.
I mean, yeah, from, like, so far, and that's why I'm just like utterly shocked. It's just like they have young pieces that are performing well. They have veteran pieces that are I don't even know if I want to say overperforming, and I get maybe overperforming, and that's kind of why I'm saying, like, I don't know if I fully believe in them yet. That are, playing really well. Their goaltending has just been absolutely
unreal.
Lights out. Their defense is really good. I just like I'm riding it with the expectation that things will kind of fall off in the second half of the season, or even in a month or so, will be our expectations will be tempered much more than they are right now. But at the moment, I mean, like, they're playing outstanding hockey.
Well, my thing is, I'm gonna keep saying this no matter what. I have zero expectations for this team. I've said it a million times before the season going in.
I do too, but like now, like I can't help but like start to have.
No. That's understandable, but
Yeah.
because of the past and their history with the playoffs and choking and everything like that, and just getting rounded, I don't have expectations because when I get my hopes up for things with the Bruins, it never works out. So, if they make the playoffs, just make the playoffs. I don't need the number 1 seed again because you saw how that worked. I don't
want President's Trophy is a curse anyway. I'd rather be like the 2 or the 3 seed.
The seeds in the NHL are more irrelevant than any other sport. Just make the playoffs and get hot and play good hockey and
just get in and win. Like that's all you have to do.
Yeah, if you're playing hot,
just get in and win.
Yeah, if you're playing hot at the end, or at least not, and it doesn't even have to be hot. You could be playing decent as long as you're not backing your way into the playoffs, and if you have good goaltending. That's the recipe for deep playoff runs. I mean, it takes more than that to win a title, but if you've got a good goalie, a good, very good to elite goalie, and as long as you're healthy and you're playing well going into the playoffs, that's, then from there, like that's all you can really ask for.
It's kind of similar to like this year's like MLB playoffs. They weren't the hottest teams, but they were hot going into the playoffs. The Rangers and the Diamondbacks. So
well, and look at it last year. The National League Championship Series was the 5 and 6 seed.
Yeah,
and it was two teams that were playing well, and not to go off on a tangent. Baseball's if you have pitching and defense, you go far in the postseason. That's just how it works.
And if you don't, you get shut out real quick.
Because it's bats typically go cold in October. So if you've got pitching and defense, the hockey equivalent is as long as you're playing well and you've got an above average, very good elite goalie, you're in great shape. Like that's part of the reason that the Torontos of the world who have all this talent, they don't have.
You guys there? I can't hear you guys.
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah, we're good. Digressing a little bit, if the Bees can be at least in the general vicinity where they were last year, good team. Like I said, I don't need the number 1 seed. They're obviously off to a great start, but I think tampering the expectations because we didn't know what we were walking into. It's the first time in 20 years. Bergeron was 03 was a rookie year. So first time in 20 years we haven't had Bergeron on the ice. Arguably one of the best 2-way players of all time. Like we just didn't know.
The best 2-way player of all time.
What was leadership going to look like? Obviously, he wasn't the captain forever. Chara had that title for a while, but
14 years.
We didn't know what to expect because, like Marchand is kind of like the last piece of that old guard, so to speak. He's the only carryover from the 2011 team.
He's the last 2011.
Like there's nobody else from the 2011 team.
Lucic.
Well, but Marchand has been here since 2011. He didn't go. Like I get Lucic is here. So I don't need the number 1 seed. I want healthy, strong defense and elite goaltending, and so far they have that. So it's nice to have guys like Patra who has overachieved in a good way, and hopefully, staying here, he didn't have to go back to the OHL. He can still learn and grow and develop within this offense. You have Lorai, who looks really, really good. If you can just bring these guys
he's still got some growing pains he's going through right now, but he looks very good.
And that's to be expected with these young guys, right? But you've got veteran leadership, you have elite goaltending, and as long as you can be healthy and just keep bringing these guys along, they're going to be in great shape come May, whenever the playoffs start.
April.
Well, it's kind of scary to think about, as these young guys continue to develop throughout the year, if they can take a step and find their comfort zone and with this team, like, they're already playing this well. Like, who knows what they could be come the playoffs. But yeah, I
Well,
mean, that's kind of
Monty's got a lot of confidence in Patra. You're not gonna believe who he's skating with now.
who's he with now.
Marshy and Pasta.
He's on the first line now.
He's the first line center now.
I kind of like that. I do kind of like that. I think that's a decent fit.
Potsy, Pavs, Charlie Coyle, and Johnny Beecher down the middle. Those are your top 4 centers. You have I believe it's DeBrusque and shit. I forgot who's on the second line. It's DeBrusque and
Carlo's
a defenseman.
I'm sorry. Your second line right winger is
It's DeBrusque.
Is Van Riemsdyk on the second line?
He's on the third line with Charlie Coyle and Trent Frederick. Well, I can tell you right now. Let me see what Fluto said earlier. All right.
Just
let's see. Well, the only other left wingers you have on the roster are Lucic and
Tynan. It's Heinen.
Who, kudos to him, scored his first goal of the season last night.
Off a nice little deflection.
Buffalo's so bad.
Montgomery's record since joining the Bruins is one of the most absurd records I've ever seen as a coach.
77, 13, and 7.
Well, to be fair, he had in his first season. Did they break the record?
Yes.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, the Bruins were expected to be solid, and they broke the record. And this team is expected to be average, and they're like 11-1 or whatever, 12-1.
12-1-2.
Like,
do you want to know what our point pace is right now? If you after last night, our point pace
I'm
it's 143.3 points.
Jesus Christ! What did they score last year?
I think it was like 130.
I'll look it up real quick.
So that's like, I don't know how much you want, like, how much credit you really give like hockey coaches comparatively to like other sports. But, like
135. The Bruins
whatever the hell, like
65, 12, and 5.
What he's doing is working, and I'm just baffled. I'm baffled by the start, and so I guess we'll see.
Ben, hearing that record
let's
this
finish
day
off
still
with
gives me chills.
Let's finish off with some Red Sox talk. The latest, this is not too much since last week. It seems like Andrew Bailey will be the Red Sox pitching coach. I think that's a really solid hire. He did some pretty good things in San Francisco. He was obviously here.
I finished second to him. I was kind of upset.
Yeah. I think it's a good hire. Like, he's been here in Boston. He knows what it takes to play here in Boston, and he did good things in San Francisco. He was highly sought after by, I want to say it was New York, Baltimore, and one other team. I think Marlins. 3 other teams were all in on him, and it looks like he's coming to Boston.
It was on the 2013 World Series team.
Yeah, and so, it's another guy with experience of playing in Boston. I think that's important. In terms of off-season, they protected 2 of the top, I guess, 3 pitching prospects. I was reading into Shane Drohan, and if he gets claimed, I would put it probably like 60 to 70% chance he doesn't get claimed. I just don't see a team putting him on the major league roster for an entire year. I mean, he had his,
if you take somebody in the Rule 5, do they have to be on the major league roster?
They have to be on the 26-man roster all year.
Okay.
So I like, he pitched in AAA and he got worn down, I think, and he looked a little bit overmatched at the AAA level. So I think he still has a good amount of developing to do. I just don't. I struggle to see a team, taking a shot at him and sticking him on the roster. But 3 Red Sox players got drafted last year. 2 of them ended up returning to the team during the year. Um, as a whole, this offseason is still obviously just kind of getting going. There's not a lot of noise, just a lot of rumors. The Red Sox are expected to be in on. I think it was Hyman that said they're one of 8 teams that he's heard are looking for 2 pitchers. Uh, who's your number one target? I mean, I guess you could say Otani, but what's your overall top 1 or 2 targets heading into the offseason?
So
Yoshinobu Yamamoto and Cody Bellinger.
I'm just not on the Bellinger train, man.
I just think he'd be awesome here. I think he'd be so good for the Red Sox.
So Matt and I talked off the record about Bellinger, and there's truth to the point of if you sign Bellinger, right, in a vacuum, it makes the team incredibly lefty heavy. So if you sign Bellinger, it means that you have to do something else to offset the fact that because if they were to bring Bellinger in tomorrow, that's arguably 5 lefty batters in the starting lineup. So you'd have to offset that by making a move.
That's not only that. That's 5 lefty. Your top 5 outfielders are all lefties.
That I don't really care about. As long as you're offset, as long as you have righty, like whatever. But anyway, so for me, overall number 1 is, and I'm a little old school when it comes to this. So like I touched on a little bit earlier, like pitching and defense is integral to winning a championship. So the Red Sox have in my opinion, a clear need of a number 1 and a number 2 starter. Bayo, I think with the proper development can break into like that number 2 range. But today, as they like to say on the 2:00 show on 98.5, we do the show today, not next month, right? So right now, Brian Bayo to me is a number 3. He's a solid number 3, has the chance. He's only, 24? If you guys want to correct me if I'm at 24, 25, somewhere in
24, 25.
So he's got room for growth, obviously. And Breslow has said he wants to alter the approach. Credit to Matt for this. Little nugget that Breslow's goal is he wants more swing and miss stuff out of his arms. So if that can push
in the zone too.
Yeah. And so if Bayo can make that next jump, like sure, could he be in that conversation as a number 2 type guy? Yes. I think that you have to bring in 2 guys pitching wise, and you have to, again, take this with a grain of salt. You have to replace Justin Turner's production. He didn't blow doors with his numbers. However, if you factor in the fact that he's 37, he had a great season. 23 homers, mid-80s RBIs, like 275, 280 average, somewhere in there, right? So you got to figure out a way to replace that. So to me, you have to upgrade the outfield. So if you're going to bring in a guy like Cody Bellinger, it means you got to move somebody else. I don't love the idea of Jarren Duran.
Probably 2.
I don't love the idea of Jarren Duran at center, but I don't necessarily want to. I wouldn't trade him. He's not a top priority to move. I think that given their situation, if you can, and I'll just parlay off of JR's point about bringing in Bellinger. If you can bring in Bellinger, you've got a guy who's easily like middle of the order bat, plug and play, can play center. You slide Duran to left. Yoshida can more or less can bounce around DH. Left field, you can hide guys. Manny played left. He's one of the worst outfielders of all time. You just got to be smart out there. And then I think you got to figure out a way to trade Verdugo and find a righty, like moderate power bat. You don't have to find, because Bellinger will bring the power. I get that right field for a lefty is not the most ideal because it's so deep, but Bellinger is a 25 to 30 homer guy and he's only 28. So it's not like,
and he got a swagger back.
Yeah. He kind of lost it a little bit, found it in Chicago. He's an easy guy to like. He's a good ball player. I think if you can go get, like, for me, like, number 1 target is Yamamoto. He is arguably like solidly the best pitching prospect to come out of the NPB like ever. He's only 25. You pay the guy high 20s a year and you lock him into a 7 or an 8-year contract.
Give him an opt-out after like year 5 or 6.
Sure. And Matt, I
He
already
was 24.
I already did the math on this. So I looked up the posting information for players coming from the Nippon Professional Baseball over to the MLB. So they get 45 days, and it's a tiered posting fee. So I based this off of signing him to a $210 million contract. The posting fee is just over $33 million. So at 210, your total financial commitment is $244 million. It's like 4 some odd million is the posting fee because of how they structure it. But if you're gonna go get one pitcher, he's gonna be the guy. He's a stud arm. I get that there's growing pains coming from Japan to the U.S., but that doesn't take a ton of time to overcome the differences, right? Because they have 6-man rotations. They don't pitch as often, but he still throws a ton of innings. It's just how often he throws is a little bit off. And you saw that with look at Daisuke. Comes over first year, was pretty solid. But then 1 year later, second year was 07, he goes 18-3 and he looks like an ace. Arguably his best year as a professional. So he's the guy. I haven't done a super deep dive into the bats quite yet. But I think that if it's really true that the ownership is going to loosen the reins and allow for more financial freedom to go spend, and I'm not saying total dollars, but like
contract wise,
but like what guys they want to invest in, right? Not saying things like, hey, we don't want to invest in Mookie Betts. Go figure out a way to get a return for him. Loosen the reins a little bit. If that's really, really true, the possibilities this offseason are certainly endless. I think there's plenty of opportunities to move guys in a trade. There's rumors about guys like this came out. Matt, was it yesterday? It was either yesterday or the day before. Jeff Passan said that Ohtani is like enthralled with the city of Boston, loves the area. So
he loves Fenway.
Right? Like loves Fenway, which is interesting because when
It's
he
also
came
a New Balance sponsor.
Because when he came over from Japan, one of the knocks on him, I shouldn't say knock, but like one of the things that you kind of like you questioned was one of the reasons he went to the Angels was because he didn't want to play in a strong media market, if that makes sense. Like that's why he picked the Angels over the Dodgers, right? The Angels are the Dodgers' little brother. He didn't want to play in New York. He didn't want to play in Chicago. And he really was kind of like lukewarm on playing in Boston because he didn't want to play in a high scrutiny area.
Now he's like when he came over here, he was an unknown. Now he's Ohtani.
Now he's game for it.
Correct. Now he's arguably probably the best player in baseball. Right? Like I know he's not going to pitch next year because he's having Tommy John. But he's still the best player in baseball. He's a 40 homer bat. He's a 40 homer bat. The problem with Ohtani in terms of the fit on the Red Sox is he only plays DH. So if you sign him, you really have to restructure the roster because like Massa is a liability in the outfield. I get if you can figure out a way to teach him left field, he could be fine. But like Devers' numbers at third base might be numbered. You might have to you don't know what you're going to do with him yet. So it's not that I don't want Ohtani, but because if you can bring in Ohtani, you bring in Ohtani and you figure the rest out later. The issue is that you have to figure out the fit. The one thing I will say is watch out for the Red Sox to possibly trade Marcelo Mayer. Struggled at Double-A last year, and most people that were grade prospects no longer think he's the top prospect in the system.
Roman Anthony's technically the number one.
Not saying he can't play here, but one thing, and this was on, I forget what show it was on. I was talking about this earlier with a buddy of mine, that with the amount of teams that have money to spend, the Red Sox might be in better shape trading people to acquire somebody than having to think about way overpaying somebody to outbid other teams.
Well, they should probably do a little bit of both.
Oh yeah, they can't do one or the other. They have to do both. They have to spend, they have to trade. But given that a ton of teams have money and that it's you're probably going to see a ton of bidding wars, right? Because Noel's on the market, Snell's on the market, Yamamoto's on the market, and then you talk about like tier 2 arms, right? Like Jordan Montgomery, who's probably going to get $20 million a season. You got to figure out a way to do both. But I just think the possibilities are endless if they're truly invested in allowing Breslow to be creative with how he wants to fill out this roster.
So
I mean, go ahead, Matt.
So if they want Ohtani, you got to try to do it. But Ohtani's really the only big bat. Yeah, Ohtani's probably the only big bat lefty that they need. Like they should be selling the house to try to get. If you signed like Bellinger, you're now set up as your best 3 bats are all lefties. So either you're going to be completely lefty heavy in the top 4 or 5, or you need to start spacing these guys out, and it limits your flexibility within the offense. Never mind that if you sign Bellinger, your only other options are also lefty in the outfield. And your first baseman's also lefty in the outfield. And your first baseman's also lefty, and your third baseman's also lefty. So if they sign Bellinger, they basically have to move on from probably 2 of those outfielders, and they need to bring in a right-handed outfielder to play that will start. So that's why I wouldn't really touch Bellinger unless I guess you could plan on him being the DH or something like that. And
you don't sign Bellinger and
Bellinger.
You'd have to play Bellinger in center. You can't. You're not going to sign him.
Big right-handed.
You're not going to sign
outfield
Bellinger
option
and DH
something like that. But they need to. Yeah, they would need to if they sign Bellinger. It would just make things kind of too complicated. I think with how many other pieces they would move. So I mean, in terms of the offense,
it would force them to have to make multiple moves as opposed to one.
Yeah, in terms of the offense, like they don't need to do a ton. They need to find the DH option. I would just try to find the best right-handed option. I'm not against bringing Turner back in certain situations. Excuse me. The focus has to be pitching. I'm in agreement. Yamamoto's the top option. I think if you sign Yamamoto, that it's less likely that they also sign. If you sign Yamamoto, that they don't sign another 150 million guy. I hope that they would, but I think if you sign Yamamoto, you're at best looking at Montgomery, maybe like an Erod.
I'd be fine with I'd be fine with Yamamoto and Montgomery. I don't know. I was talking about this earlier, JR. I don't know is Corbin Burns a free agent?
No, you got to trade for him.
So Corbin Burns, I just want to look at it. Yeah, so he's still in arbitration. So yeah, you'd have to trade for him. But
he's got 1 year left on his deal.
Well, he's in arbitration.
Yeah, I know. I think it's his last year of arb.
Yeah. So he becomes a free agent unrestricted next year. So yeah, you'd have to trade for him. But I wouldn't mind a situation where if you sign an ace, right? And I think that Yamamoto is probably their best bet. Rumor is, just to touch on the other 2 guys, rumor is the Yankees seem to be super invested in bringing Aaron Nola to the Bronx. And the last I read, which was from Heyman, I want to say, was that the 3 top suitors showing interest in Snell are the Padres, Giants, and Dodgers. So not to say that the Red Sox aren't obviously going to kick the tires and call agents and say, hey, we need arms. We're interested. Let's talk numbers. But I think their best bet, if they're going to go get arms, is to go get Yamamoto and be truly invested in that. And I think that I don't know how much of an upper hand they really have, given the fact that they have a long history with Japanese players. They have Japanese guys on the staff. They have
Former teammate.
current players are former teammates. So I don't know how much. I'm sure that there's interest there. I just don't know how much it actually plays a factor. But when you have an opportunity to land a guy like that at his age, if they can go get a guy like him and then sign Montgomery, who's probably the number one pitcher of those quote unquote tier 2 guys, that's probably the one that makes the most sense, because you figure you're probably going to have to invest, somewhere between 27 and 30 million a year in Yamamoto, and Montgomery's probably going to cost you 20-ish, like in that ballpark. His estimated market value is 18. I think that's on the low end. Could you get him for that? Maybe, but I think you're probably looking at more like 5 years and 100 million, somewhere in that range. If they can do that and then upgrade the outfield, the rest of the offseason is gravy to me. It's icing on the cake.
So we'll finish it off with this. What is your prediction, pitching wise? What do you think the rotation looks like? Each of you can go. What do you think the prediction for the rotation?
Then you can go first.
Who do I think is going to be in the rotation?
Next year's starting rotation for pitchers.
Yeah, who do you think? What do you think the end result is?
So it's tough because recency bias on the team would indicate that they don't sign a top ace. Like Breslow's such a wild card because of how much he prioritizes pitching, but with how ownership in the front office have run the team the last couple of years, it's kind of like I really don't know. So in an ideal scenario, you'd bring in Yamamoto, Snell, or Nola, and then somebody like a Jordan Montgomery. And that way, Bayo's still young. You can say, hey, look, the number 3 spot's yours. Develop and just keep working hard. Takes pressure off of him to be, even part of the guy, right? Then, the back end of the rotation is you kind of figure it out, right? You've got Crawford, who's like, he's fine. Like he doesn't get me excited. Cutter Crawford shows up on the probable starter list. I'm not buying tickets to Fenway immediately.
Ben, I want your prediction though.
So, I mean, I'll say, so their ace is going to be, I'll say it's Yamamoto, because I think Nola is going somewhere else, and they're not top suitor for Snell. I think given their current interest in Jordan Montgomery, I'll put him as the number 2. Bayo's your number 3. And then your 4 and 5 is Sale and probably Cutter Crawford, or Pavetta. One like what either one of those guys is fine with me. I mean, to expand on that, I think the bullpen's fine. If you can figure out a way to upgrade the bullpen, great. I think if you can trade somebody like Verdugo for a high leverage, quality arm at the towards the 9th inning, great. Jansen's older. You're going to need a closer in 2025 anyway. But I'll say it's Yamamoto, Montgomery, Bayo, Sale, and Crawford.
All right, Jay, how about you?
I'm gonna go Yamamoto, Aaron Nola. I know we said no $250 million guys, but I could see Breslow doing it because he's emphasizing pitching that much. But if it's not Nola, I say Jordan Montgomery, and then Chris Sale, Brian Bayo, and probably Cutter Crawford. If it's not Crawford, maybe Nick Pavetta.
That's both reasonable. I want to say Yamamoto, but I mean, realistically, that's what I want, but I wouldn't bet on it. There was a report that he might want to go to the West Coast. So I'm going to go with Aaron Nola. I think that's someone that fits really what they want. And then I'll throw a little bit of an outside the box name at you. I guess my prediction would be Jordan Montgomery, but look out for Tyler Glasnow. I know he's a divisional guy.
I would love that.
I know he's a divisional guy, but in the end, like if you offer the best package to the Rays, like
it won't cost much to get him.
I think the package will be reasonable. Like if you offer Nick York and maybe something minor, like
Miguel Blaze.
Well, I don't think you'll have to go that big. I think Nick York and Luis Perales maybe. Pitching prospect. I think that's a decent option. He's not making a lot of money this year.
Define a lot of money. He's owed $25 million.
It's up to 25. That's his arb. I thought it was like close.
He's out of arbitration. He signed a 2-year, $30 million deal, and 25 of it is owed this year. He took.
I don't know why I thought it was like 18.
He took five. He took 5.3 last year, 5.35, and this year is a flat 25 million. Against the luxury tax, granted, that's different than paying him, but against the luxury tax, it's only 15.1. But he's owed $25 million this year.
Okay.
So maybe, given he's 30, maybe that you don't maybe you could give up a younger pitching prospect. You don't have to give up Nick York.
Maybe.
Right, so Matt and I kind of talked about this off the record without you, Ben.
Yeah, you suck.
It's really controversial. I'm for it because I've been a fan of the guy since he was a Cleveland Indian. But what would you think if they brought in Trevor Bauer?
Oh, at 1,000%. Sign him yesterday.
Okay, see, me and Ben have the same mindset.
Love Trevor Bauer. He walks in, he's that guy that's just like, look,
he's cocky. He's got that swagger, that attitude, man.
He's got swagger. He wants to come back. Like he lost what 2.5 years of his career because of the whole snafu that happened, and so like I just I'm not he's a mid rotation guy. Like he's not going to come in and anchor your staff, but I just think that I love the swagger. He's talented. He's 32 ish.
31.
So I don't think it would cost a ton of money. But
we don't need to dive into
I will buy him unlimited spider tack.
I will pick him up at the airport.
Power, but it would be risky. It would be
it's risky because of PR, but man, if he helps you win, kind of worth it.
All right. Yeah. We'll wrap it up there. We went long anyways. Any final words, Ben?
Oh, I mean, I'm excited for the MLB offseason. The thing that really irritates me is how goddamn slow it is. It seems like there's, when Kyle Schwarber,
it officially starts right away, but nothing happens for the first month.
Yeah, well, and that's like a recent thing, right? Like, what was it, 2 years ago? Kyle Schwarber signed with the Phillies. He signed a week before spring training, and that was kind of like, and that was a rarity. Like most guys are, they signed, before the new year. I'm excited for the baseball offseason. We got winter meetings are coming up in 2.5 weeks. Early December, I believe. That's
where a lot of the signings will start happening.
Down in JR's neck of the woods. Maybe we can get some boots on the ground. Sneak in.
Hold up, where are they going to be at this year?
They're usually in Florida. I can look at.
They were in LA last year.
No, were they LA last year? Let's see. Hold on.
It was LA or New York? Because I know a couple of my Yankee fans that live out Yankee fan friends that live out on the West Coast. They were at them.
Sorry, they're going to Nashville this year. My mistake. So no boots on the ground, guys. Sorry about that.
I could go to Tennessee if I really wanted to.
They got some great hot chicken. Love me some Nashville hot chicken. But yeah, excited for the MLB offseason. I've kind of moved past. I'll just kind of watch the Patriots and go through the motions. The Celtics look good. Hopefully they can stay healthy. And, I think, hockey's going to be fun to watch. But I think that, it's nice that, we've got some excitement with baseball, and between hockey and basketball, we're in good shape for the rest of the winter.
JR, how about you? Any final thoughts?
Kind of what Ben just said, but I can't wait to be the first NFL team ever to lose on their bye week.
Hey, the Patriots can't lose this week, so it's a good thing.
They
I
can
guess.
win. They can technically win draft position wise, though.
Yeah, it's true. They could lose draft position. I don't know.
Yeah, they can win or lose. So I'm saying we could be the first team to
I'll
lose
just keep
or win
it
on the draft
simple.
week.
I'll just keep it simple as Craig Breslow, show what you're made of.
He's
Go
trying
and
to be
get
Craig.
be aggressive. We had when people were bragging about Heim, they would yell. They would just say Heim. You know what I'm saying. Turn that into Craig. So when you make something good happens, they just say Craig as like
Brez
a reference
Bros.
to him. Brez Bros.
Brez sexual.
Yeah. But yeah, just show what you have. Show that you're capable of handling this job. The first move was, I guess, Bailey, and that was minor. But we'll see. We'll see what happens if ownership shows that they're for real, and if Breslow can handle the job. The Sox are in a pretty good spot. They just need to add these, 2 or 3 important pieces, and they'll have a chance to be good next year.
You got 4 years, or more than 4 years, hopefully, but time starts now.
So, yeah, that's it. We'll be back next week. Hopefully, maybe we got some Red Sox news by then, at least a signing or two or a trade or two. I'd like to see them get a couple minor deals to help set up the offseason, maybe even a Verdugo trade.
For Glaber?
No, I don't really want Torres. I'm over
Better
that.
hitter.
He is I wouldn't hate Torres, but it's just I don't know. I'm not a big
You have
fan
your
of the
everyday
deal.
second baseman.
They have other options. Trade. I'd rather sign one of these. There's 3 or 4 second base free agent options. I'd rather sign one of them and trade Verdugo for either a pretty solid reliever or hell, even like a solid prospect if it means that they can just sign one of these second basemen that are pretty similar players. But either way, we'll be back next week, and thank you all for listening.